a future ravaged by toxic air, every breath people take is slowly killing them. With pollution rampant, millions have perished, and the world now lives under a constant haze. People rely on air filtration systems in their homes and must wear air filtering masks whenever they step outside. But even these measures can't fully protect them from the deadly air. The pollution spreads wherever it reaches. One day, Athera, a powerful company, announces their groundbreaking drug, AirREM. Just one pill, and for 6 hours a person can breathe freely without a mask. The world takes notice, and soon a model named Ella becomes the face of the AirREM campaign. Once an ordinary model, Ella's rise to fame follows the tragic death of her mother, a shocking event that haunts her every step. Now she's ostracized by her peers who whisper behind her back. But Ella finds solace in the support of her boyfriend, Tally. What Ella doesn't know is that her trust in Gina is misplaced. Beneath the surface, Tally and Gina are secretly seeing each other, betraying Ella in the worst way. One day, Tally, a drug dealer with a reputation for throwing wild parties, is seen preparing for another night of chaos at his house. Before the festivities can begin, he and Gina head to a notorious drug lord's headquarters to score some illegal substances. On the way, Gina calls Ella, trying to get her to join the party. But Ella, exhausted from a grueling day of work, declines, preferring to stay in and rest. At the drug lord's place, Tally wastes no time jumping into negotiations. Meanwhile, on a live TV broadcast, Eric, the head researcher of Athera, is being interviewed about AirREM. He confidently explains that Athera is working tirelessly to meet global demand for their revolutionary drug. During a live session, a caller asks about the purpose of AirREM. Eric explains that just one pill offers up to 6 hours of breathable air outdoors without a mask, but still recommends using a mask for extra protection. Back at the headquarters, Tally ups his order, demanding more drugs than usual. The drug lord refuses, telling him to wait while he fetches the supplies. Growing impatient and curious, Tally sneaks into the drug preparation room, eager to see what's really going on behind the scenes. Back at the TV station, the next caller identifies herself as Lazarus. With a calm but probing tone, she asks Eric about the origins of the ingredients used to make AirREM. Eric quickly shuts her down, claiming the information is classified. But Lazarus isn't done. She reveals another fact. She knows that the ingredients for AirREM are running dangerously low, and reveals that Athera's warehouse was raided by thieves just a month ago. She also questions whether AirREM will ever be accessible to everyone, especially the poor, considering its high price tag. Eric's calm demeanor cracks, realizing Lazarus has exposed some dangerous secrets. He abruptly cuts the call, panic setting in. Meanwhile, Tally, lurking in the shadows, watches two figures, Solomon and Spider, conducting a secret experiment. Something about it feels wrong. Suspicious, Tally slips into the storage room and snatches a bottle of blue liquid. He doesn't stick around to find out more, rushing straight to Gina, urging her to leave before things spiral even further. Back at Athera's headquarters, Eric's phone rings. It's his father, Connor, the company's enraged director. Apparently, Lazarus's revelations have sent shockwaves through the company. Worse yet, Connor reveals that Athera's entire production of AirREM relies on enzymes from dragonflies. Enzymes that are becoming increasingly rare as the dragonfly population nears extinction. Connor demands action, ordering Eric to find a synthetic replacement enzyme, no matter the cost, to ensure production keeps up with global demand. Eric's face tightens as he listens to his father's fury over the phone. Apologizing, he explains that one of his top biochemists, Solomon, has been caught betraying the company. Solomon had broken into the storage warehouse and stolen several vital enzymes. Eric suspects Solomon is connected to Lazarus, and he's already dispatched a team to keep an eye on him. Despite the mess, Eric promises his father that he's still working on finding a synthetic enzyme to save their operation. Meanwhile, Ella is quietly mourning the anniversary of her mother not being there, caught up in a last-minute assignment from the president. Understanding her pain, he suggests she go out and join her friends at a party to avoid being alone. After a moment of hesitation, Ella agrees, hoping to distract Gina together, preparing to drink the mysterious blue liquid. Tally, startled by her unexpected entrance, fumbles and drops the bottle. But instead of reassuring Ella, he bolts after Gina, leaving Ella standing there, confused and hurt. Furious, Ella impulsively grabs the remaining blue liquid, thinking it's just regular alcohol. Without hesitation, she drinks it down in one gulp. Determined to get back at Tally, she heads straight for the dance floor, deliberately dancing with his friend, Brian, hoping to make Tally jealous. But as the music pulses around her, Ella suddenly feels lightheaded. The dizziness hits her fast, and she stumbles toward the restroom, her vision blurring. Within moments, she collapses. Meanwhile, back at Athera's office, Eric is hunched over his lab desk, tirelessly working to create a synthetic enzyme to replace the rare dragonfly enzyme. His latest test on a rat ends in failure. The animal drops dead. Frustrated, Eric slams his fist on the table, knowing that with every passing hour, the demand for ARM only grows. His assistant Angela walks in, suggesting he take a break, but Eric brushes her off. There's no time for rest. He can't afford to fail. Back at the party, Ella stirs, her body burning with feverish heat. Desperate for relief, she stumbles toward the bathroom and fills the bathtub with cold water, hoping it will cool her down. As she sinks into the water, trying to escape the discomfort, a sudden realization hits her. She's in way over her head. At the same time, Tally is frantically searching for the blue drug he had stolen earlier. The bottle is missing. His heart races as the door bursts open and the drug dealers storm in, looking for him. In a panic, Tally rushes into the restroom, trying to escape, but the dealers are right behind him. Ella, unaware of the chaos unfolding outside, submerges herself deeper into the bathtub. The tension escalates as the drug dealers corner Tally, demanding to know where the stolen blue liquid is. Tally, trying to stay calm, initially denies taking it. But when the beatings start, he cracks, admitting the truth. He took the bottle but never drank it. The dealers, now furious, storm through the house, looking for whoever consumed the drug. Meanwhile, Ella, still reeling from the effects of the blue liquid, stumbles out of the bathroom. With a shaky voice, she admits to Tally that it was her who drank it. Panic strikes Tally. He rushes out, locking the door behind him, and tells the dealers that the person they're looking for is in the bathroom. But when the dealers burst in, they find the bathroom empty. Ella is gone. Enraged, one of the dealers grabs Tally by the throat, choking the life out of him. Desperate, Tally fights back, grabbing a nearby gun and pointing it at the dealers. In the chaos, Spider lunges to disarm him, but in the struggle, Tally accidentally shoots himself in the leg. The pain is excruciating, and he collapses unconscious. Solomon and Spider, realizing they have no time to waste, quickly tend to his wound, stopping the bleeding as best they can. They know the police won't be far behind. With no other option, they make a quick decision. They need to leave immediately. Soon after, Tally slowly regains consciousness, his head pounding. As his vision clears, he sees Ella crouched in the shadows of the ceiling, hiding. Confusion washes over him. Her behavior is strange, almost inhuman. Ella's eyes lock with his, and she calmly explains that after drinking the blue liquid, everything feels different. She feels powerful. Without hesitation, she easily breaks down the bathroom door, grabs the key, and steps out, as if nothing could stop her. To her surprise, Solomon and Spider are still there, frozen in shock. And determined, Ella returns to the bathroom and, in a burst of newfound strength, shatters the glass roof with a single strike. Tally tries to stop her. Outside, Solomon and Spider, now fully aware of what's happening, rush after Ella and Tally. But Ella is already on the roof, moving with a grace and speed that shocks them both. She leaps from rooftop to rooftop, her movements fluid and effortless. As Tally struggles to keep up, he almost slips. But Ella is there in a flash, catching him just in time. Below, Gina watches in disbelief. Her builds. Tally's footing slips suddenly and he falls, his body crashing against the hard ground below. From behind, Solomon's voice cuts through the chaos, shouting at Ella to stop. He insists he can help her, but Ella's eyes narrow and she doesn't trust him. Without a second thought, Ella leaps off the edge, landing with a cat-like grace, her heart racing. Gina, standing a few feet away, is livid. Her anger boils over as she accuses Ella of pushing Tally, blaming her for his fall. Ella tries to explain, her voice desperate, but Gina isn't listening. Her grief has clouded her judgment. Just as things seem to spiral, the sound of approaching drug dealers makes Ella act fast. She turns and sprints, easily vaulting over a fence in one fluid motion. But as she lands, Brian's car speeds toward her. In the nick of time, he slams on the brakes, narrowly avoiding her. The sudden stop startles Ella, and she collapses, unconscious. Brian rushes to her side, scooping her up and carrying her to his house, desperate to help. By the time the police arrive, Gina's anger is palpable. She points a trembling finger at Ella, accusing her of pushing Tally to his death. She spins her story for the officers, her voice shaking with emotion. Meanwhile, one of Eric's men quietly makes his report to his boss, informing him that Solomon is chasing after a girl. As Ella slowly regains consciousness, Brian is there, his eyes filled with an intensity she's never seen before. Without warning, he leans in, attempting to kiss her. But something inside Ella snaps. Her arms twist unnaturally, and claws shoot out from her elbows. In an instant, she slashes at him, the sharp claws gleaming in the light. Brian recoils in fear, his face paling as he backs away, terrified of the monstrous transformation before him. He bolts, leaving Ella alone with the chaos of her new reality. Panicked and desperate for answers, Ella rushes to a nearby hospital, hoping to find some explanation for what's happening to her body. Inside, the hospital is overwhelmed. Patients line the halls, all victims of the deadly air poisoning. A weary nurse, her face drained of color, tries to stop Ella, insisting that she needs to be quarantined. But Ella, unwilling to surrender to her fate, refuses and bolts, narrowly escaping a security guard who begins chasing her through the hallways. She takes refuge in a quiet room, hidden away with a young child whose body is racked with the effects of the poison. The child, gasping for breath, mistakes Ella for an angel. In a fragile voice, the child begs Ella for help, explaining that the hospital has run out of medicine. Overcome with sympathy, Ella reaches into her pocket, pulling out the last of her ARM pills. She presses them into the child's hand, hoping the little bit of relief she can offer will be enough to ease the suffering. Elsewhere, Eric sits in his office, tension thick in the air, as Brian bursts in, battered and shaken. The details pour out how Ella attacked him with claws that had erupted from her arms. Brian, visibly terrified, tries to explain, but Eric already knows this isn't just a freak accident. Something's changing with Ella. He snaps into action, barking orders to his men to track her down immediately. Time is running out and he needs answers. Meanwhile, Ella, lost and desperate for answers, finds herself standing at Gina's front door. Confusion and fear are written all over her face as she demands an explanation of what's happening to her. She feels like she's losing control of her own body. But Gina's response is cold. She doesn't know anything. The only thing Gina's sure of is that Tally stole a bottle of the blue liquid from the drug dealers. In another part of town, Solomon and Spider break into Brian's house, determined to find Ella. But all they uncover are pieces of her claws, discarded in the sink. It's clear now that things are spiraling out of control. Back at Gina's house, Ella, racked with pain, asks her, "What's happening to me?" But Gina, avoiding her gaze, simply repeats that she has no idea. She only knows about the stolen bottle. As Ella processes this, a spark of realization hits her. She grabs Gina's phone and sends a message to Tally, knowing that his phone is likely being held by the drug dealers. Though she doesn't fully trust Gina anymore, she has no choice. Ella, feeling the gnawing hunger in her stomach, heads for the oven. As she opens the door to grab something to eat, she accidentally grips the handle too hard. The oven door shatters with a loud crash, falling to the floor. A jolt of realization hits her. Her strength is growing, and it's becoming harder to control. Just as she processes the incident, her phone rings. It's Solomon. He tells her to meet him immediately, but only if she comes alone. He won't help her if anyone else is with her. After the call, Ella's eyes shift toward Gina, who's already dialing the police. But before Gina can make the call, Ella rushes to stop her, fear rising in her chest. She knows she can't trust anyone else with this. Not now. Meanwhile, at Aethera's headquarters, Eric reports to his father, Connor, about the failed attempts to create a synthetic enzyme. Connor's anger flares as he listens. The shareholders are losing confidence in him. And without the synthetic enzyme, production of ARM is in jeopardy. In the heart of the city, Ella meets Solomon, her eyes filled with desperation. Gina waits in the car, eyes scanning the street, tense. But just as Ella begins to trust the moment, Spider emerges from the shadows, injecting Ella with a tranquilizer. The world blurs and fades as Ella's body goes limp, and Solomon watches, conflicted. Together, Solomon and Spider drag her to the drug dealer's headquarters, with Gina following at a distance. When Ella regains consciousness, her hands are bound to a chair. Panic sets in, but she quickly taps into the raw power coursing through her. Her claws extend, slicing through the ropes like paper. She eagerly devours the nearby flesh, her instincts taking over. Meanwhile, in the next room, Solomon and Spider stand in uneasy silence. They don't know what comes next, but Spider suggests taking Ella to Lazarus, as she's the one who ordered them to create the synthetic enzyme that Ella unknowingly consumed. Moments later, Solomon and Spider watch through the door as Ella, now more feral and desperate than ever, frees herself. With a knife in hand, she storms toward them, demanding answers. Her voice shakes with a mix of rage and confusion. "What's happening to me?" she snarls. Reluctantly, Solomon admits the truth. Her body is changing because of the blue liquid she ingested. But his answer isn't enough. Ella spits at him in disgust, and the acidic saliva lands on Spider's hand. In an instant, her skin begins to sizzle and burn, the pain making her scream. Ella remained trapped in a whirlwind of confusion as the sirens wailed and the building was surrounded by police. Solomon, realizing they had no time, urged Spider to run, knowing he couldn't leave Ella behind. The doors crashed open and the officers swarmed in, arresting both Ella and Solomon, accusing them of murdering Tally. As they were dragged outside, Ella's heart sank. She called out to Gina for help, pleading for her to tell the police the truth, to vouch for her innocence. But Gina stood frozen, her silence louder than any words. It became painfully clear Gina had been the one to call the authorities. Betrayal cut through Ella as she and Solomon were thrown into a cold, dark cell. Inside, Ella's panic surged when she noticed something horrifying. Her ear had fallen off. It had twisted into a grotesque shape. In horror and fury, she turned on Solomon, blaming him for the drug that was turning her into something monstrous. But Solomon remained calm, insisting that she wasn't a monster. She was the key to saving humanity. The cell door creaked open and Eric entered, his presence commanding the room. At first, he only planned to take Solomon, but when his gaze fell on Ella, recognition hit him like a shockwave. She was the girl who clawed Brian, he couldn't forget that. But what shocked him more was her condition. Her transformation was undeniable, and it stirred something inside him. Eric didn't hesitate. He promised to help her, to treat her, and with that, he led both Ella and Solomon to Athera's research facility. Unknown to them, Spider trailed behind, determined to save Solomon from whatever plans Eric had in mind. Once inside the facility, Eric wasted no time. He turned to Ella, asking for permission to conduct tests on her body, eager to understand what was happening. Reluctantly, Ella agreed, her fear mingling with the faint hope that maybe, just maybe, there was a solution. Eric administered a sedative, and Ella's world faded into darkness. After a series of tests, Eric's eyes widened in disbelief. Ella's body had mutated. Her DNA was now strikingly similar to that of a dragonfly. She could produce the dragonfly enzyme, the very thing Eric had been desperately searching for to keep ARM in production. The revelation sent a wave of excitement through him, but the price of his discovery weighed heavily on his mind. Later, Eric met Solomon in the facility's basement, his tone sharp. He demanded that Solomon hand over the formula for the drug Ella had consumed, wanting to reverse engineer it to meet his needs. Eric proposed that they work together again, but Solomon was resolute. He refused, his conviction clear. He knew Eric's true intentions, to sell ARM to the wealthy, keeping it out of reach for those who needed it most. Solomon, on the other hand, had always envisioned his creation as a lifeline for all of humanity, rich or poor. Fury twisted inside Eric as Solomon's refusal echoed in his mind. He needed the dragonfly enzyme, and he would stop at nothing to get it. Determined, he made a cold decision to extract the enzymes from Ella's body, regardless of the consequences. Eric approached Ella, masking his true intentions with a calm demeanor. He promised her an operation, claiming it would cure her. Everything would be fixed. But before he proceeded, Ella asked to contact her father. Eric lied, telling her that he had tried to reach him multiple times, but to no avail. Trusting him and weakened by her condition, Ella signed the contract he presented, unknowingly sealing her fate. The next day, Ella awoke disoriented, her mind clouded. As she lay still, she could faintly hear voices outside the soundproof room. Though the walls should have muffled their conversation, she could make out the voices of Eric and his father, Connor. At that moment, Eric spoke of Ella's body producing the enzyme in large quantities, more than they had ever hoped. Without Solomon's cooperation, Eric planned to extract the enzymes from Ella, even if it meant risking her life. His intention was to replicate the mutation in her body, injecting it into other species so they could continuously harvest the enzyme. Connor's voice filled the room with a hint of concern as he mentioned that Ella's father had reported her missing to the police, aware that his position as an ambassador would complicate things further. Eric, unfazed, reassured him that he had already lobbied the police to keep the situation under control. He spun the narrative, suggesting that the police would likely believe Ella had purposely disappeared to avoid facing charges for Tally's death. Ella, listening in from the other room, felt a wave of fury rising inside her. The words stung, pushing her to the brink. Her anger ignited, and she became aggressive, a raw force of emotion surging within her. Eric, startled by the sudden outburst, realized too late that she could hear everything. He quickly ordered his men to sedate her again. Gas began to fill the room through the vents, knocking Ella unconscious. Angela, standing nearby, coldly noted that the enzyme extraction process would begin later that afternoon. Outside the room, Spider, disguised as a courier, slipped into Athera's research facility, moving unnoticed through the corridors. Her mind focused on finding Solomon and getting him out. Back in Ella's room, she stirred as the sedative began to wear off. She attacked the two nurses who entered, her claws swiping through the air with ferocity. Her instincts screamed at her to find Solomon. and she demanded to know his whereabouts. Meanwhile, a security guard monitoring the CCTV cameras noticed the disturbance and triggered the alarm. The facility was thrown into chaos. But Ella, now more attuned to her surroundings, heard the guard's movements before he could react. She swiftly scaled the walls, hiding above, her senses sharp and precise. As the guard drew closer, she struck, incapacitating him with a fluid motion. Using his fingerprints, she unlocked the door, and her escape was within reach. Ella's heart pounded as she finally found Solomon, her breath heavy with anger and confusion. She demanded to know why he refused to work with Eric. Solomon, calm as ever, explained that his goal had always been simple. He wanted everyone to have access to the medicine he created, free of charge. Frustrated and desperate for answers, Ella turned, showing him the changes on her back and the odd transformation of her ear. Solomon barely flinched as he explained that these were simply side effects from the drug she had consumed. His indifference sent a surge of rage through her. Without thinking, she grabbed him by the throat, squeezing hard. Solomon gasped, pleading for her to stop, his voice shaking as he promised to show her something that could help. Elsewhere, Eric's son Max arrived at the facility, his presence a distraction Eric didn't need right now. He left Max in Angela's care, his mind focused on the more pressing matter: finding Ella before she could escape further. In a quiet corner of the parking lot, Spider worked quickly, setting up bombs with meticulous care. Once done, she made a call, informing an Athera employee of the bombs planted in the research facility. Panic spread like wildfire through the staff. As chaos began to ripple through the building, Eric's attention snapped to the problem at hand. Solomon was gone too. He ordered his men to search for both Solomon and Ella, knowing that things were spiraling out of control. Moments later, Angela entered Eric's office, her face grim. She informed him of the bomb threat, suggesting an evacuation. Eric's jaw tightened. Without hesitation, he ordered the entire building to evacuate. Elsewhere, Solomon revealed the truth with a calm, detached air. The key ingredient for AirRem had come from a special species of dragonfly that once thrived in South Africa. However, due to the mass production of the drug, that species had been driven to extinction. Solomon had never intended for people to rely on AirRem, which was why he had created the blue liquid Ella had consumed. The drug had allowed her to evolve, making her immune to the toxic air that had ravaged the planet. Ella, still grappling with the implications, felt a deep bitterness. She realized no one would want to become like her, a mutation. Solomon admitted the drug was only a prototype, urging Ella to meet Lazarus, who could perfect the formula. For now, the only way to survive was to drink the blue liquid and undergo the same transformation, just as Ella had done. Before they could discuss it further, an explosion rocked the building, jolting them both into action. Panic spread as they immediately scrambled for an escape route. Meanwhile, Eric paced frantically in his office. His son Max was nowhere to be found, and the growing unease gnawed at him. He had to find him before it was too late. In a hallway not far from Eric's office, Solomon and Ella encountered Spider. Their escape was becoming increasingly urgent, but a guard was approaching fast. The two quickly ducked into a nearby restroom. Inside, Ella spotted Max sitting in one of the stalls, unbothered by the chaos unfolding around him. She moved to comfort him, trying to ease his fear, but to her surprise, Max wasn't frightened at all. Instead, he looked up at her with innocent curiosity, calling her a fairy. Caught off guard, Ella paused for a moment before nodding subtly. With little time left, they made the decision to escape with Max, but as they neared the exit, they were confronted by Eric. Unexpectedly, Max lunged forward, desperately trying to stop his father from pulling the trigger. In that moment, Eric's command to Ella was sharp and clear. She had to release Max. Ella hesitated, calculating her next move. She agreed, but on one condition. She and Solomon would be allowed to leave. Ella turned to Max, her voice calm yet firm, assuring him she wouldn't harm him. With a chilling display, her claws extended, a silent warning to Eric. But Eric, unwilling to let her escape, fired a shot. The bullet whizzed past, narrowly missing its target. Without hesitation, Ella released Max, then sprang into action, leaping toward the elevator where Solomon and Spider were already waiting. Outside, Eric swiftly gave orders to seal off all exits, his mind racing with the urgency of the situation. But before his men could act, Spider's car crashed through the gate, scattering debris in its wake. Eric, frustration creeping into his expression, told his men not to shoot at the car, as Ella had to be kept alive. They fired at the tires, causing the car to roll violently before it came to a stop. When they checked the car, they found no trace of Ella or Solomon. They had already moved on foot, slipping away unnoticed. Ella, with the ease of someone who had become more than human, used her claws to tear through a wire fence. Shortly after, the officers quickly realized that Ella and Solomon were no longer at the gate. Panic spread through their ranks as they scrambled to find them, leaving only one officer behind to guard Spider. But Spider, moving with swift precision, incapacitated the lone guard before vanishing into the shadows, her escape seamless and unnoticed. Meanwhile, Ella and Solomon reached a bridge, their exhaustion evident in every step. Solomon, worn out and realizing the weight of their situation, stopped. His energy had run out, and with a resigned look, he knew there was no way to keep running. He urged Ella to jump across the bridge, convinced that she, with her dragonfly wings, had the ability to survive. Ella hesitated, torn by the idea of leaving Solomon behind. She didn't want to abandon him, but the reality of the situation pressed down on her. Seeing her uncertainty, Solomon finally spoke, offering an apology for what had happened to her body. He showed her his own bruised arm, evidence that he too had taken the drug, though in smaller doses, his fear of the consequences holding him back from more. With a sigh, Solomon handed Ella the remaining blue liquid. He told her to take it to Lazarus, urging her to help create a drug that could be made available to everyone, free of charge. He then gave her the directions to find Lazarus, the weight of his words hanging heavy in the air. Before she left, Ella pressed her pendant into Solomon's hand, her fingers lingering for a moment, a silent exchange of trust and farewell. With one last look at him, she leapt into the air, her dragonfly wings catching the wind as she soared away. The sound of her departure echoed in the stillness, and moments later, Eric and his men arrived, intent on capturing Solomon. A few days passed. Spider, ever resourceful, hacked into every television channel, hijacking the airwaves. With calculated precision, she broadcasted a grim message to the world. The air, she revealed, had become completely toxic, suffocating the planet. But there was a solution. The drug she had created could grant immunity to the poisonous air. Unfortunately, the solution would mutate the body, transforming people into like the dragonfly-human hybrid Ella had become. Spider, in a bold act of defiance, drank the blue liquid herself, urging humanity to embrace the change if they wanted to survive. Meanwhile, Ella, now fully transformed, tested her newfound ability to fly. Her wings carried her effortlessly through the sky, a symbol of her evolution. She eventually found Lazarus, only to discover that Lazarus was not some distant figure, but Angela, Eric's trusted assistant. And with that, the story comes to an end. So the moral of the story is, if you're ever offered a magical blue liquid that promises to solve all your problems, maybe read the fine print first. Unless you want to know the part about transforming into a dragonfly-human hybrid with super strength.